to the best interests of the United States.
How do you feel about all the charges that America's immoral and wrong in this war?
I feel they're false because I fought over myself, and I've seen it. Most of the people making these statements haven't been overseas in Vietnam. And if they could go over there and see what's going on, I think they'd think it was just war.
And we just cannot now dishonor our word or abandon our commitment or leave those who believed us and who trusted us to the terror and repression and murder that would follow.
I don't think there's any evidence or any real reason to believe that that kind of mass execution would take place.
The very fact that practically 2 million of the North Vietnamese fled to South Vietnam to escape the communist regime is an indication of that this government did not represent the will of the people.
Not only are we bleeding our men and having them die in Vietnam, we are spending at the rate of about $30 billion a year, $2.5 billion a month in Vietnam. Now that's more than we spend on our entire housing program. It's more than we spend on our entire poverty. And this money must be diverted back to our domestic needs, and we must end this feudal war, immoral war.
The invasion of any and all outsiders, the French, the Japanese, and now the Americans. And let me say, as one whose opposition to our policy in Southeast Asia long preceded the right against it, that there can be no peace by negotiation.
The NLF is part, of course, of South Vietnam, a part that is like an alien body, fed, supplied, supported, and kept up in some state of vigor by a hostile force outside the country, namely in North Vietnam. How we in this country, or somebody in any other Western European country, would feel if such a force existed within their ranks and somebody from the outside would tell us now, be a good boy and let those people determine your fate.
It started out as a colonial war, it became a civil war, and we intervened on one side, a thing which this country has never done before, and I hope never does again.
Do you feel that what you've gone through and what you're going to have to go through the rest of your life was worthwhile?
Yes, I do. Because I think just about all people should think of just one thing right now, and that's freedom. And the only way we're going to get freedom is to protect ourselves, whether it's in this country or in other countries that need our help. And I think a lot of people feel the same way as I do.
Well, I've said that we ought to publicly indicate our willingness to accept a new government in South Vietnam, which would be a coalition government or a fusion government. I don't really care what they call it. You'd have to include elements of the National Liberation Front, because this is really what the war has been fought about.
The purpose of communists is to have a coalition government, and from that to dominate the South Vietnam under the communist regime. And our people in South Vietnam don't like it to have a communist.
Now, to those who are flirting with communism, I can only say, have you ever lived under a totalitarian government? Well, I have lived under two types, National Socialistic as well as communism. And I know what I'm talking about. Why don't you ask a Hungarian or a Czech or a Pole or anybody else how they like it before you really ignore the facts of life and support something that you wouldn't want for yourself or for your children.
If we cease bombing, we are, in a sense, not knuckling under, but calling the bluff of other governments who have said that this is the key, and confront them with the responsibility of following through with the imperative logic of their pronouncements in this respect.
Well, might be one element, but I don't hear very many people talk about stopping the invasion of South Vietnam by the North Vietnamese. It seems to me that the two go hand in hand.
4 or 5 bombing halts. The Soviets had asked us once to halt the bombing for 2 weeks. The suggestion being, the thought being, that they thought negotiations could begin within that period. And the bombing halt lasted for 37 days and was resumed when nothing had started.
I have now ordered that all air, naval, and artillery bombardment of North Vietnam cease as of 8 a.m. Washington time, Friday morning.
This is the kind of peripheral struggle that I think should be compromised. Now, I don't mean by that we run out and run it. I don't advocate we just say forget it at all. But it isn't of the kind of surely would cause great nations to go to an all-out war.
If you're going to fight a war, I believe in winning it because you're losing lives. And this is one thing ought to be number one priority. And whenever you get into war, my own idea is get everything you can, fast as you can, use everything you can, and get it over with. And I preach this, I'm not saying anything new.
Until the president stands up and says, we're bringing all of the troops home as quickly as we can bring them home, we're bringing them home now, I think the anti-war sentiment in the country will continue to grow. We have to bring them home, and we have to bring them home immediately.
But ending the conflict is not so simple as just calling it off and coming home, because the price for that kind of peace could be 1,000 years of darkness for generations yet unborn.
You don't think there should be a demonstration against the war? Do you think it does any good? That might hurry up the withdrawal?
No, I don't think it will hurry up anything. It might delay it.
Oh, do you have any children?
Yes, I have 3 boys.
Any of them old enough to take part?
One will be 18 next month.
Last spring, Jerry Grossman, a Boston businessman, who was the president of Massachusetts Peace Action Council, suggested that it might be possible to begin to put together an effort across the country to take time away from regular activities and instead devote those days to working against the war.
A lot of Americans are against war, but a lot of them that are against it don't really know everything about it, and they half know about it, and they don't really try to understand. They don't know the Vietnamese people, and they don't know the situation between the South and the North.
As they are they know they are not become stronger, but they believe in you become weaker and weaker.